Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Busy Moms Fitness, Nutrition, Mindset, and Accountability Group. Super excited for today's call. It was inspired by one of our amazing community members. So, Amy, if you are here listening, this call is for you based on what you have asked for. So, this group is for busy moms or busy women professionals who are looking to learn about fitness in a simple and easy way, learn about nutrition in a way that allows them not to have to give up the things they love, including the wine and cheese, the beer and pizza. This is for accountability and consistency to move the needle forward in your health and wellness in a sustainable and maintainable way. And also to have a community aspect because when we work on our health, it's hard. It's hard and can be lonely. So having a community to come to is what this group is for. If you are here on Facebook right now, drop hashtag live in the comments and let me know that you are here live. If you are watching the replay, whether it's on YouTube or you're listening to it on the podcast or you're here on Facebook, drop hashtag replay in the comments below and interact as I ask questions. If something comes up that doesn't make sense, drop it in the comments. This chat lives on, this video lives on. There are people who will jump into this group, and I might have done this training in June, but you're watching it in October because that's when you needed to listen to it. So just know that these trainings you can always come back to at any time. So as I said, if you're watching, drop hashtag live or hashtag replay based on whenever you are watching. Today's topic is going to be the power of positive thinking, which I said was brought to my attention and also conversation. And the reason we're having this training because of one of our community members, Amy. She asked me this question probably about a month ago. And because when I plan out content, I want to do trainings that are based on what you want to learn about, what you want help with, what is going to help you, not just what I want to teach on. And she asked me the question of, Morgan, you're such a positive person. Is that something that you've always been that way? Or did you learn it? Like, give me some insights into that. And it actually kind of made me think. And overall, I'm more of a positive person than I am a negative person. But I've also done a lot of personal development work that has helped me kind of redial in some of those things. Because really everywhere in the world, there's so much negativity that it's hard to kind of go up against it and still be positive when you turn on the news and it looks a certain way, or you go on Facebook and it looks a certain way, or you're talking to somebody and they're saying something negative. It's negative everywhere. So we have to do a really intentional job of getting ahead of that and being more positive. And there's power behind that, not just for the way we think, but for the way we think about ourselves and others and the way we feel. So as we are kind of going through today, I'm going to be sharing 3 simple exercises that are going to build on one another to kind of get you practicing being more positive and creating that awareness so that if you're someone who feels down all the time, or you feel like you're always hard on yourself, or everyone and everything's out to get you, there is a way to reframe that and to get out of that mindset. So like I said, I've done a lot of personal development as well. And really all of that started back in 2020 when I was laid off and I started my own business. I had done I'd done a personal development course in college. It was great, but that was about it. And then when it came time for me to like start my own business and run, and I realized there was so much mindset around just like, could I actually do it? There was a lot of negativity, self-talk. And I noticed I needed to kind of lean into it in different ways to excel forward in business. And I got into it for Get Fit With Me, the reason I created this group, the reason I have my business, but it's rippled effect into my personal life, my family life, all the things. So the 3 exercises that I'm going to teach you, or the 3 tools I'm going to teach you today, are ones that will work in all areas of your life. They're super simple. They don't take extra time out of your day, but they are something that if you do consistently and you create the awareness around, you will see changes in your mindset and how you show up in the world. So before I get too far into it, I want to make sure, do we have any questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat on the power of positive mindset. Anything else on that, drop it in there. So I also want to know, if you are watching, I want you to let me know who you are, where you're from, and do you find that you are a more positive person, a more negative person, or you sit somewhere in the middle? So as you are watching live and watching the replay, let me know kind of where you sit on that scale. And when we go through these exercises, I am going to go through them at a rate which is not going to take a lot of pausing, but there is going to be times where I'm going to encourage you to pause the video if you're watching the replay and to actually kind of think about these a little bit more in depthly rather than just running through all these exercises. So when we think about changing our mindset and being more positive, there's a few things that come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is that person who's always smiley and upbeat all the time. Well, that's not always the case. To me, a positive mindset is not just how the person reacts on the outside, but how they also react on the inside. Often we have a lot of negative internal self-talk, and although we may be super positive externally when we're around people, there's a lot of internal negative self-talk. And I want you to think of these exercises in ways that you can use it for both externally and internally talk. So the first exercise, I just call it stop. Stop. And what you're going to do is in the first exercise, you're going to stop and create the awareness and the acknowledgement of what is happening. And this is the first level you have to start at. These exercises build on each other. So I don't want you to jump to exercise number 3 if you haven't mastered or you haven't done exercise number 1. So exercise number 1 is stop. And all you're going to do is when you are in conversation with somebody or you're in conversation with yourself and you're starting to notice that like you're saying something bad or you're not feeling great about yourself or you're starting to point out something, just that negativity, I want you to either hold up your hand and say stop or just internally stop your thought and create the awareness of, oh, that was a negative thought that was happening, or, oh, I was thinking something negative about this. And one of the examples I actually gave with Inside Our Inner Circle, I think it was 2 weeks ago I did this training, was, do you ever walk around the store and you see, we all do it at some point, or we all have done it at some point. You walk around the store and you see that person wearing that crazy outfit and you think, wow, what are they wearing? That's a negative thought that we're having. And we don't even know the person. We don't know why that's doing it like that, but our mind is programmed to do those thoughts. So we have to work against the grain to reframe and reprogram. So when you start to feel yourself thinking something negative, just stop. Create the awareness, acknowledge that it's happened. It's not bad. It's not something you should shame yourself for, but just stop and acknowledge it. And that is your first step, is stop and acknowledge it every single time. And you will start to see how many times it happens. It's like if you've ever been up talking with somebody and they're like, so you're standing up in front of a room, you give a speech and you ask for feedback and they're like, well, you say like a lot and you don't realize it, but until they point it out, you then realize you say like all the time before every sentence. I remember that back in elementary school, there was or like, we did an exercise with that. It's about creating the awareness and the acknowledgement. There's no shame I want you to have for having it because we all have it. No matter how much we practice, there is so much negativity in the world and around us that it's really hard to fight against the grain. And that first step is just creating the acknowledgement. And maybe it's stopping, realizing the people you're around, because we're around certain people who are negative. So sometimes we have to stop and pull ourselves away a little bit. Maybe it's a TV show we watch. Maybe it's a podcast we listen to. Maybe it's a radio station and you realize you're just consuming all this negativity. That's the other thing, is creating that awareness around what you are consuming and acknowledging it, stopping, acknowledging, and awareness. So for exercise number 1, it's stop. And I want you to remember that if you have not mastered and you have not practiced exercise number 1, stop, I don't want you to move on to number 2. Because if you move on to number 2 and you skip number 1, it's not really going to be as effective. If you have any questions on it, drop them in the comments. If you've tried this already, let me know in the comments if you've tried this exercise or if you've tried a form of this exercise. And when I said hold up your hand, there is something about the physicalness of saying stop and holding up that hand that also stops the brain rather than just the internal dialogue that we have. So number 2 is reframe. So we've created the awareness, we've created the acknowledgement of these negative thoughts, and you are now pointing out when all of them are happening, which naturally what's going to happen is when you do it, you're going to start to naturally reframe and stop the thought and change it into something more positive or something that feels a little nicer, or you're going to shift towards watching or listening to something that really makes you feel better rather than down. So in this reframe, which is exercise number 2, you've already practiced the acknowledgement and the awareness, and now we get to move on to the reframe. And I've got a few examples here to kind of show you what that can look like, both internally and externally. So I'm going to go back to that first example that we used in the stop exercise, which was you're going through the grocery store and you see that person wearing that crazy outfit. And the first thing you want to think of is, why would they wear that? Well, when we stop ourselves and we've created that acknowledgement, that first reframe it and say, wow, she's really confident in that. Or I can't believe they went out and did that. Like, good for them. Like, give that positivity around anything we see when it shows up. Because if we reflip it like that and we're talking about people we don't know like that, imagine what we're saying to ourselves. And that kind of goes into some of these next examples of one of the examples that I always love is the negativity is, I look so awful, I look so fat, oh, this doesn't fit me, nothing ever looks right. The reframe that I like to go to is, I really like blank about myself, or I really love blank about myself. And yeah, that doesn't switch necessarily how I feel. I may still feel like this outfit's not the best, but I really need to point out the things that I feel confident about myself, because that will help allow me to feel more confident in that outfit, help me feel more confident in myself, help me be more positive and powerful. So thinking through that, when we are talking to ourselves negatively, we have to reframe that. And maybe that's an exercise of waking up every morning and saying 3 things you really love about yourself to yourself in the mirror. Maybe that's writing a sticky note. Maybe that's journaling. There's so many ways we can go into self-positivity. But today we're talking about just kind of general being more positive and how you can reframe some of these. The other one that I hear is, the world is so messed up right now, nothing is ever right. A reframe is, I'm so lucky to have blank in my life with all this craziness. Think of the positives in it. We get caught in all this other crap, but like, what can we control? Like, what are we lucky to have? We forget those things. Nothing ever goes right for me. The world is out to get me, is something else I hear. This is usually what I hear before clients and I start working together, is because mindset is a huge portion in our overall health and wellness. If we have a negative mindset and we're always down about whatever it is, workouts are harder, eating healthy is harder, staying consistent is harder, showing up is harder, things are harder. So when I hear nothing ever goes right for me, the world is out to get me, I try to have them reframe of, I woke up today and I'm here to do the best that I can do with what I can control. Because we can't control everything. And there are things out there that are awful and negative, and like, we are allowed to feel awful about those, but we should not let them consume us. So thinking through, what can we control? Can we control our thoughts? We can control our thoughts, yes. We can control how we show up. We can control how we react. We can control the actions that we have towards whatever we are doing. For instance, I had essentially like 3 weeks of vacation. I was in Wisconsin for a staff retreat. I went up north to Traverse City, and then we were in Florida this past weekend. And I got back, and although I drank my water, I ate pretty well, I moved, I just was not feeling like myself. And what I can control is my workouts, my diet, my water, my sleep. Instead of thinking of, oh, well, I just should have done this, and I should have done this, and I should have done this, and getting all negative and down on myself, I just went into, okay, starting Monday, what can I control? What are the things that I can take control of again? And we can take control of our health. We have full control over that. There's very few people out there that don't have control over that. And it's usually if there's some health issues happening. But 99% of us in this group, in this community, have full control over every single thing they do for their health. Whether we do it or not is a different story. And that's where consistency and accountability comes in, and micro habits. Story for a different day. But when it comes to what you can control, You can control your health. You can control the actions you do. And by me implementing those on Monday, I physically feel better. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days later, I feel so much better than I did just because I just reset. I got back into the things that make me feel good. I've walked, I've spun, I've really worked on eating low processed foods. I've drank all of my water. I'm getting good sleep. I'm getting back into the things that I know work that sometimes we get thrown off track. So there are times when we don't feel great, but we know what to do and we just have to implement them. So when we are reframing, whether it's for ourselves or it's for an individual or it's out externally in the world of all these things coming in, just think about that negative thought and how can you flip that? And it doesn't mean you have to say it out loud of, oh, that was a negative thought. I'm going to say that positive out loud. You don't have to. It can be a completely internal dialogue with yourself. Also, when it comes to that reframe, I want you to think about if you have people in your life that are negative around you. We talked about this in our inner circle. There was one of our women. She was saying how she has a family member or a friend that just seems to be down all the time, and it's hard to have a conversation because anything she asks, it seems very negative. And a piece of advice I gave her is ask a different question. If the question you ask is, how are you doing? And you know you always get a negative answer, don't ask that question. Take control of the conversation and ask her something that you know is going to give a more positive outcome. And if you don't know, it's going to be trial and error. But take control of that conversation and reframe it. And even if they start to say something negative, point out the things of, oh, wow, I really hear you had a great time this weekend. Even if they were talking about how much they overate or whatever it is. Sounds like you really enjoyed some great restaurants. Like you can reframe and find the positivity in it for others when people are not in that state to kind of do it for themselves. And that's total next level. But I just wanted to give you some of those tools and share that little story because I think we all have people at some point that come and go, and being able to still interact with them in a way and share what you have to offer with them. So number one was stop, number two was reframe, and number three, I kind of already touched on it, is focus on what you can control. So there are so many things we cannot control in life, so many things. And we tend to dwell on those things all of the time. So what I like to give as a piece of advice is if there's something out of your control that is dwelling on you, that's making you feel down or negative or just whatever, think of is there anything you could do to take control? Whether there is or not, give yourself a time frame to allow that feeling to happen. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a day, whatever it is. And then after that, you are only focusing on the things you can control. And when all that negativity starts coming in ways of things that we can control, but we're not actually taking control of them, your step is I've created the acknowledgement, I've reframed. So I'm going to start all the way from like body image because it's a really easy one to use in this group. So starting at the front of, oh my gosh, I look so gross today. Stop. Acknowledge that has happened, that I'm saying that. I'm going to reframe that into, wow, I really love the color of my hair. Then into, oh, I'm still not feeling great. Well, what can I control to make me feel better? Take control and recognize the things you can control and start taking control of them. And I know it's much easier said than done. And these are things that take time. I'm still working on these. I think I learned this exercise 3-4 years ago, and it's kind of built and formed in different ways. But thinking through, can you start at that stop phase? Can you get really good at just acknowledging and creating that awareness around it? Once you do, start reframing that. Work against the grain of what everybody is seeing. Work against it. And then once you've reframed, but you're still having those feelings, really think about what can you control and what you can't control. And focus on what you can control and take control of it. And the things you can't control, give yourself a time frame to feel the way you need to feel, do whatever you need to do to feel that way, and then move on. Because if we dwell all the time on the things we can't control and that we can't help, it doesn't move us forward physically, mentally, emotionally, or anything. So I want to know, as you're kind of listening and tuning in here, I want to know which of the 3 stages do you think you're at? Are you in the stop phase? Are you feeling like you're in the reframe phase? Or are you feeling like you can start focusing on the control phase and taking back control? So you either drop stop, reframe, or control in the comments below. Let me know kind of where you're at. If you're not sure where you're at, that's okay. I suggest starting at that stop phase, starting back at that reframe. Start back up there at stop of acknowledging and creating awareness. Then we're going to move on to that reframe. Then we're going to move on to that control. And you may be in the stop, awareness, and acknowledgement phase for a really long time. And that's okay. So as you are going through here, as we're kind of finishing up, remember, drop stop, reframe, or control in the comments. Let me know where in those stages you feel like you're at, as well as that first question that I asked of, are you more of a positive person, a negative person, or somewhere in between? Reminder, every single Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, we go live in this group. Anytime that I'm not able to go live, whether I'm traveling for work or family or fun or whatever it is, there is always going to be something that pops up at noon Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. So please remember to be on the lookout and jump into the group at noon on Thursdays, no matter what. The other thing that I wanted to remind you of is every Saturday I send out an in case you missed an email. And if you're not part of our email list, I'm going to drop a link in the comments below. Make sure to click that link and put your email in. I send out reminders for these calls, a 24-hour reminder, as well as a 1-hour reminder. And then I do an in case you missed it, where I kind of go over the bullet points of the call and I tag us to the replay. In addition to that, every once in a while, I'll send out promos of things that we're offering, new programs that are coming out, free challenges, free resources, things like that. So if you're not part of our email list, make sure to click that link below in the comments and let me click it, put your email in, and then you'll be added to our email list, and I will get you all set up so you have all the resources. And if you ever have any questions or you need help or support, or if there's anything you ever need, please let me know. I'm happy to do any training on what you want to learn about, as long as it's related to fitness, nutrition, mindset, accountability, consistency. Anything in there, I am happy to do a training on it. I want to do a training on it. So have a great rest of your day, everyone. I will see you same time, same place next week. Have a great rest of your day.